Alright, so for some reason it wasn't working.
No?
Nope.
What is this music?
Huh?
Is this music you put on?
Where?
How did it? Oh.
You got an ad going?
Yeah, but I got. Oh, it's you pick. Them strung together.
Oh. Alright, let's see here. Okay, you pick gaming. Is it on now? It says it's streaming, but
Yeah. It's streaming.
can you see me? I can't see anything. I have like a blank screen.
I don't hear anything yet.
Is it just?
Oh, now I hear it.
Is it good?
Yeah, there's audio.
Alright, I just have a blank screen over here.
That's weird.
Yep. Alright, so I guess the question would be, what do we want to make? Can you hear me still?
Uh-huh.
Oh. For some reason it says I'm paused.
Huh?
I just have a frozen screen on the Twitch panel for some reason.
That's weird.
Yeah. Alright, let's see here. Okay, now it's working. Okay. Alright, everyone. You guys have, well, you guys, one person, I think Red Sage is in here. And the counter Bob. It says that we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if you can change that to
Yeah.
something else. I mean, it's Dungeons and Dragons map, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But do you guys want to see anything in particular? You know, world map, battle maps, something along those lines. Let me know in chat. If not, I'm just gonna start by messing around, probably making a couple battle maps or something. Alright, here we go. Oh, new followers. I love new followers. Alright. World map, please. Oh, alright. DM Leviathan swinging for the fences there. Alright, we can do a world map. Let's do a world map. World map, I'm going to do much higher resolution than I do my battle maps in. Most of my battle maps I make for Roll20, and you're kind of limited on the upload size and on the resolution of their grid size. So a lot of my battle maps I tend to make at a little bit of a lower resolution just to fit better with that and make them line up a lot easier. For a world map, we can go a little bit, you know, a little bit higher up. Make a big world map. Alright, here we go. Let it load up. Things are a little bit slow because I'm running the stream and Photoshop, so there might be a little bit of a delay between things loading. And also I'm using Photoshop CS3, which is a lot older, so if you guys have newer versions of Photoshop, you could probably do a lot of things I do a little bit smoother. I also probably don't know every single shortcut that I should. If anyone is interested in doing this kind of work but they don't want to shell out money for Photoshop, you guys can go ahead and download a program called GIMP, G-I-M-P. If you haven't heard of it, it's really easy. You can Google it. It's basically an open source photo editing software that's really similar to Photoshop. It's not as streamlined, not as smooth, but you can do a lot of the stuff that I do with that. So let's go from here. So when I'm making world maps, a lot of times if I don't have something specific in mind, if I'm literally just kind of doodling, what I will do is I'll go in and create just a blank canvas here, and then I'll pick a color that I like. You can do it with black, but generally you want to get something a little visible for just the sake of being able to see it. And then I'll go in and I'll take a very large brush, usually, larger than that. I mean like a really big brush, probably about 350, somewhere in there. And I will start kind of carving in the basic like blob shapes. So if we wanted to, have, say, a two-continent map, um, we can go ahead and just blob it in. We'll just have a random kind of assortment of stuff for one continent, and then we'll just do, I don't know, something along those lines for the other continent here. And again, this is very, very rough drawing. Basically, you're kind of just sketching it out. If you want, you can have a bit of a like Antarctic type of thing going on over here. Maybe you got an island area over here. Change your brush size up, add a couple more things here and there. Just be random and sporadic with it. If you are just going off the cuff, if you actually have an idea for how your world looks or what it should look like, this method isn't exactly the one that I would use, but this is one that's really good for just sketching stuff out and kind of just messing around, so to speak. And this is good for now. You can always come back to it later. Go in, I'll add a new layer, just so you guys can kind of get an understanding of the feel for it. Let's do some really clashing colors there. There you go, world map, done. We're good, we can go. This is basically playable as is. But in all actuality, I'll go back in. Now, most of the time, I'm a fan of what's called non-destructive editing. And what non-destructive editing is that you want to do things in a way that you can go back and erase later, without actually messing up the work that you've done, anything that you might have created so far. In this stage, it's going to be kind of a destructive process, so just bear with that. So what I like to do after I have kind of a general shape blurred out, maybe add a couple other things here and there, maybe some smaller stuff around, yeah, let's do a little island chain, I don't know, be nice, be a pirate campaign or something. Do what you want with it. And you have a secret we're just going to put a happy little island over here. And then what I'll do is I'll go back in with the eraser tool, and I will take a decently sized brush, nowhere near as large as the one as you use to kind of block in your selections here, and just go in on these larger islands after you've gotten it, and pick a spot and kind of just start carving away. And when you're doing this, the main thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you are as random and chaotic as possible. You want to use a lot of clicks, not so many drags. You don't want this to look smooth unless you're specifically going for that area to be smooth. Most of it, if you look at any kind of atlas or world map, has a lot of really, really rough coastlines, things that don't really, they've been eroded away. There are not a lot of straight lines. There aren't a lot of perfect circles, a lot of curves that look appealing to the eye when you actually zoom in on it. So you want to kind of just rough it up a bit. Don't be afraid to carve pretty large chunks out of the land masses that you put out. So we'll go in and I'll literally carve out a little area here, and I'll leave a bit here and there for like a bay or something like that. And it might look a little bit rough. You'll go back in, you can clean it up a bit more later, but it's definitely good to be a little bit chaotic in this point. And again, come back in with different brush sizes, things like that. You can go ahead and adjust your brush and take out larger chunks if you want. Don't worry about it. It's definitely good. And then when you zoom out on this, what you're going to do is you're going to see it looks a lot more natural than than you might expect. So if we just take this section here, and I want to get some of these areas cleaned up a little bit. Give it a little bit of a peninsula there. Think little mini San Francisco there. And then as you start to zoom out and sort of look at it, you'll see that it'll be taking shape. It'll start looking more and more like a coastline. This isn't going to be a 100% dead accurate sort of map. It's going to be, a little bit more stylistic. I like things that are kind of heavily saturated and have a lot of color and features that pop in them. So, other people have different things for this. This is just the way that I do most of my coastlines in these types of maps. So I'll just go around and tidy up some of these areas. Take it there. And this might be a little bit of the boring section here, but maybe this would be a coastal island like that. And then, yeah, that'll work. Something like that. And we'll just eat up the rest of the coastline here. And there. Alright. And then we'll just continue on. Like that. Yeah, that'll work. Something like that. And as you start to zoom out a bit, you can kind of see it's really starting to break it up a bit. If you really want to get crazy with it, you could even come in here and you could take this entire section here and just take this and break it away from the rest of it. Something like that. And it's Fantasyland. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but it's nice. Nice if it looks a little realistic. And there we go. Alright. Something like that. Might look a little... Oop, lost it. Yeah. Not looking too bad. Let's go in. Let's give this a nice peninsula there. I'll be totally not Florida right there. That's what we'll call that. And then close that out because I don't need it right now. Again, not a lot of smooth. Doesn't have to be too 100% perfect. Let's go in here and get a long string of islands going. There you go. Offshore oil rigs there. This spot here, if you want, again, I'm going for just very random, chaotic. If you're trying to plan certain things out, Like say you want something that has a little bit of a unique characteristic to it. Maybe this section here is literally, um, like a crescent bit of island that is very well known for some reason or another. You can go ahead and do that. You can just shape it in. Again, keep it random, keep it chaotic. Think on large scale, not on small scale. Um, don't zoom in too much. Just keep zooming in and out to kind of keep pace with what it looks like. Um, but it's fine. You can have it, you know, be stylized, have character. You can put direct features into it. It doesn't have to all be random. You can plan and plot certain things out. Maybe inside the center of this, it's got a very large bay with a very central type of city on it. Um, you can go ahead and do that. Put that in there. Large trading port that's controlled by whatever city or realm that you have in your land. Um, Again, random, chaotic, spam clicking. This will be a little bit more interesting once we get this part done. And let's go ahead and just, I don't know, this bit looks a bit wonky, so I'm gonna mess with it. Yeah, I'll leave that there. Alright. And I'll just speed through this a bit more. This is how, pretty quick and easy way. There's a lot more precise ways to do it. There's also a lot of tricks to get completely randomized things. I know some people use the difference cloud filter. It's kind of a popular method. They go in and they generate difference clouds, which use kind of like an exponential algorithm thing to generate a random kind of texture, and then they'll use selections of that to generate what looks like rough coastlines and clean it up. And I've seen that a lot, and it turns out really well. It's just really kind of what do you like to do. One thing that I'm not doing, again, because I'm trying to rush through this, I'm not varying my brush size enough on this. If I were doing this more for like a professional type of thing, I'd vary the brush size a lot as I was doing this step. This would probably be one of the more time-consuming steps of the whole thing. Right now, I'm just, like I said, just trying to get it to look roughly like what I want. This is too much here. There we go. And yeah, why not? Come back down with my smaller brush. Yeah. Alright, there we go. And these look a little squared off, but that's not too bad. So let's actually just take this piece right here, and what I'm going to do to speed things up is, let's go like this. There you go. There. And we'll finish off these smaller bits here. I'll get rid of that guy. Okay. And this looks like, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and take this guy out. There we go. So you got something like that going on. And again, you can go in there and you can add lakes and stuff like that if you really want to. I'd clean this up a bit more, but this is kind of just the general idea of what you're looking at for this. You got your water texture here, obviously, and you've got your land. It helps if you want to be on the safe side. Duplicate it, put it towards the bottom with the background layer, just turn it off and forget about it. You can come back to it later if you really need to. Thank you very much. Alright, so next part. What I like to do at this point is kind of just feel out what type of textures I want to use for this particular map. So if I were looking at this and I wanted it to have varying, basically varying kind of biomes and stuff like that across the entirety of the map, I want all of the textures to be of a similar style, basically. You can go with realistic textures if you want, or you can go with a bit more stylistic kind of hand-painted textures. It's really kind of up to you. So I mean, there's different kinds that you can find out there. Hand-painted ones, they tend to pop a little bit more. I use these a lot for like my battle maps because they add a lot of depth while still being really legible to the battle maps. I don't really like using photorealistic textures on my battle maps. On world maps, though, photorealistic textures aren't necessarily a bad thing, and they can look pretty decent. So what I'll do is I'm going to go in here and just look at some of the textures that I have just for these types of things. And you can, you got grasslands, you got things like that. So just open them up, see what they look like, and you want them all to kind of have basically the same tone, the same type of feel to them. This is pretty good. This is a nice grassland texture. You can go ahead and just, select your top layer here, take it, drag it straight over. And this isn't going to be the only texture that we use, but one thing that I like to do is just get all my textures in there at once and then mess around with them. So we got some grassland, we got stone texture. Let's see, what's this here? And my textures are a bit of a mess. Smudge dirt, this probably looked pretty good for desert things. You just want to make sure that it kind of has the same feel as, oh, that was loud. The same feel as other textures that you're going to be using, and these two are pretty similar. I might change this one up a bit to make it fit the feel of the map a little bit more, but I'll probably end up using it for the desert textures. And then I don't know if we need maybe a kind of mountainous region or a snowy region, something like that. This one's probably a bit too realistic. Swamp texture, that might work. Well, or not, because the file's broken, but we'll find something else then. We don't need you. Let's look at this for a marshy kind of texture. Yeah, that'll work. Again, if you're going to be doing this for something that you might maybe sell at some point, if you're going to be using textures that you did not create yourself, you have to check your licenses on the textures if you can use them for things that you're going to be selling, basically. If you want, the easiest route is just go create your own textures, and there are a lot of tutorials on doing that. So what am I going to be doing with all these? So let's just hop back over here. Oh, and as always, save, because I'm horrible at it. So let's go up to, we'll just do it up to here. World map. There you go. Okay, so what are we going to be doing with all these textures? Well, we're going to go back to what I was talking about earlier with non-destructive editing. And we're going to work with this texture right here for now. Mostly because I like this as kind of a swampy texture, and this kind of island up here, with the way that it's very, very heavily flooded string of islands, I think is going to be a bit more heavily forested type of thing, just in my mind. So one big thing, like I was saying, you want to go to non-destructive editing, and what that means is you want to put things in a way that you can use them multiple times, and edit them and change them without worrying about, like if I were to erase parts of this texture and then move it, the erased parts would always be there. So instead what I want to do is edit it in a way that allows me to undo my edits without having to hit Control Z 8 million times and undo 2 hours worth of work, basically. So first thing, if I want this to just adhere to this island here, the easiest way to do that without worrying about it too much is to just clip it to the layer underneath it. So you can just right click, hit create clipping mask, and it goes directly on there where it needs to be. And that works pretty well. If you want to move it around, you can just grab it and move it where you want. If you want to use this on other sections of the map, I would suggest either resizing it to stretch out across the whole map, depending on how intense and how deep you want to get with your textures. I probably just going to leave it more like this, leave it as a clipping mask, and I want to brighten it up a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and go into the layer mask and just well, that didn't work because this is clipped to that, and I have to change it first, and I'm smart, I know how to do things. And wait, what? Alright, I messed something up. There we go. Release clipping mask. Then change it with adjustments. There we go. Layer style, so you can darken it. You can bring the midtones out, which is kind of what I'm looking for there. I want to make this a bit more bright and vibrant. I don't want to wash it out. I don't want to overdo it. Subtlety is key in a lot of your photo editing. So to bring up the blacks a little bit, you can richen it up, but I definitely want to bring these midtones out and make it just look a little bit more alive. And then let's go to the hue and saturation, just because I want to bring up some of the blues. So we'll just go down to the blues. Where are they at? There they are. Yeah, we can. And the cyans, just a little bit. I'm just messing with the colors a little bit to give it the color that I want. Alright, I'm just going to merge all these together now that I'm happy with it. And then I'm going to go ahead and create the clipping mask that I want. And I'm going to move it around a bit. That's not too bad. Again, for a quick map, you're looking at something that's pretty good. Okay, you move this around, get it exactly how you want it. You can rotate it, grab it, change it around a bit. Yeah. There you go. And let's go for this one here. Now this is what I'm thinking of covering most of the mainland with, but I want to keep it relatively the same size as my other textures. So what you really want to do is kind of just basically blanket them together and just view, snap to layers. There you go. And then always check and make sure it's pretty seamless. I specifically download most of my textures I download are seamless textures for this reason, so that when they butt up next to each other, there's no like really clear visible line. So I'll just go ahead and duplicate and just rinse, lather, repeat. Yep. Like that. And let's merge all those together. Bring it over, duplicate it one more time. And again, it's okay to be messy with this. It doesn't have to be exact, because what you're going to do is you're going to just take them, merge them together, and then create a clipping mask. And there you go. most of your mainland's covered. Now what's really nice about this, and this is where we're going to get into the non-destructive editing, let's say that you wanted the center of this place to be kind of like an arid, desert landscape. I'm not sure if this is a seamless texture or not. An easy way to check. Take it like that, and it looks pretty close. It looks close enough for the purposes of the video. So, okay, sorry. Let's see. I wasted so much effort time not using the clipping mask. My old professor would berate me. I still do it by hand, so this is all new to me. I always end up spending too much time using the clone tool to recreate texture, but making it flow my way. But so much extra time can look weird. Yeah, so there's, again, this is kind of just really, really simple. And then one thing I'm going to show you in about half a second here is one of my favorite things in Photoshop. Almost every single thing I use, create, I like have 1,000,001 vector masks for the specific reason of non-destructive editing. So clipping mask is really nice, and then the non-destructive editing layer masks, adjustment layers, things like that are also really, really handy. But yeah, clipping mask is super, super nice. So these two, they're pretty good. Let's go ahead and merge them together. I don't really want to do too much, so let's say I'm just gonna lay it across like this, and I'm imagining, just for the sake of the video here, I'm kind of imagining that, like, brush, oops, oh yeah, and new layer, and a new brush, because I'm kind of just imagining, like, this inner area is going to be kind of desert, just for the sake of, this map in particular. It can be whatever you want, really. So we have this here, and what I want to do is be able to kind of just blend it in smoothly. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and click down here, and you guys probably can't see it because I have the overlay on, but if I turn the overlay off, down at the bottom here there's a little button. It says add layer mask. I think you can right click and do it in here too, but you click on the layer that you want, click add layer mask. What it's going to do is going to bring up this box here. This box is basically your layer mask here. You can switch back and forth, and it's a little difficult to see for some people, but the little outline shows which one you're selected on. You want to make sure that when you're trying to edit this, you're on the layer mask, otherwise you're going to end up painting on your texture, and that's not a good thing. So we're on the layer mask, and you'll notice that it switches my colors. The layer mask only works in black and white and shades in between. So the closer to dark that you get, the more transparent it is. The closer to white you get, the more opaque it is. And so if you have like a 50% gray, it's going to give you a 50% transparency. So what I like to do is to get this to where I want it. You can do one of two ways. You can either try and kind of cut down and push it in, but what I like to do is to brush out from where I'm going. So I like to fill the whole layer mask with black, and it gets rid of the whole thing. And then I'll come in here with a brush that I want to use, something halfway decent size. And then if I'm brushing in black on the layer mask, it's just black on black. It's not working. So I switch it over to white, and I come in here and I start just brushing this out, whichever way you want to go. You can make this bigger, obviously, and then you can also, this one's fairly hard, or not a hard brush, but you can mess with the flow and make it kind of bleed out a little bit more. But if I'm just doing this just roughly, brush it out, which you might think maybe a little bit more in this direction, because that's the way that the continent kind of flows around. And then just get it to where it looks good for you. Big arid area. There you go. Something like that. You can come back in and switch back to a black if you want. Switch to a larger brush, like a 300 brush. Maybe pop that opacity down and touch up those edges so it blends a little smoother if you want. But get it to what looks good for you. I'm gonna go a little bit more on this side here. Oops. And non-destructive editing. Awesome. Now the cool thing is, if I wanted to come back to this, I could. So no matter what, if I wanted to come back and change anything about this texture, I could. I can actually just go ahead and disable the layer mask, and it will be back to the original texture, and my entire texture is still there. That's super important because if, and a lot of people do this if anyone's made maps at any point in time, you know, you get something set and then you go and you zoom out or you come back to the next day and you're just like, God, that looks terrible. So a lot of people, you know, they want to be able to edit things, and this is a good way of being able to go back and mess with the stuff that you've put in. But again, it's all kind of about the feel of it. This kind of dips in a bit more, so I kind of go a little bit with the contour of the land, and then you can bring this up a little bit, bring this down some. There you go. You know, not too bad. So let's see. What do I want to do now? Well, one thing I like to do is give the water a nice texture, so I think that we can go ahead and mess with that some. Always safe. I'm really bad about that. Water textures. So let's see here. I have a couple in here that I like. Or I did have a couple in here. Doesn't look like they're in here anymore. That's not too bad. So, anyone have any questions, requests, things like that? Bing. That's not terrible. Alright. Open. Let's see. What do we have? Deep Forest, Daughter's Marsh, Nordic Drought. So for the more prominent features, if you're talking like mountains and rivers and things along those lines, it really depends on the style of the map that you're doing. There's a lot of people with a lot more artistic skill. It's something that I'm working on a little bit more, that actually draw in their mountain ranges and things like that. I like to, on a lot of mine, like I said, I go for usually a bit more of a saturated color kind of stylistic look to a lot of my maps. So I'll use basically like icons and things like that to place the mountains in, and then I'll add color and touches to them, and I can kind of go over that too. For this, I think that looks pretty good. That'll probably work for the water. If I want to take these down, take them down to the water layer, and then let's work with this one first. So we have this one, and this is the other nice thing about you know, placing your layers correctly too. You can just move your water around underneath layers. We're just going to do what we did before. We're going to go ahead and mix these together. Now see, this is not a seamless texture. This is kind of just a general texture, and it's not going to line up very well, and you're going to have a lot of lines, which is not going to look good in your water. So the best way to deal with this one is probably going to be to just size this up like this, and let's pull this down some. Give it kind of a bit of a funky texture here. We'll see how this looks. That looks okay for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. And what it's going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this. I'm just going to rotate this. And that'll probably work alright. Alright. Let's pull this out. There we go. And then I'm going to let's see, switch the blending modes. Yeah. Something like that. Drop the opacity down. Like that. There you go. That's pretty good. I don't even think I really need this other texture here. Let's see how it's going to look if I do this though. Let's drop this opacity down a little bit more. Yeah, that'll work. And if I wanted to do this one here, let's see, duplicate. Yeah, that'll work. Come on, keep hitting caps lock instead of shift, but you know, nobody's perfect. We'll duplicate one more time. And then we'll take this and we will merge them. And let's see, duplicate them. And then we'll merge them together. Okay, and then if I wanted to, I could darken, find something that I can go through and find something that works. I think this might be a bit overkill. But you know, it gives you just kind of like another layer of texture to add to stuff. And it's kind of nice, but you can go ahead and move it around, see how it looks. I kind of like that a lot, so I'll probably leave it at that. And if you really want to, you can go ahead and just merge your water layers together, and then you know, you can add some blur to them if you want to kind of blur it out, make some of those hard lines kind of go away. Again, this is just a simple way to make a really decent looking world map. Again, you can take a lot of time. There's a lot of other techniques that you can do to just make each one of these steps just a little bit more, you know, clean looking, professional looking, things like that. So I'm going to probably take this. I'm probably just going to blur it just enough to kind of get rid of some of those hard edges and make the water not the focal point, because in your campaign, for the most part, the water is kind of just like the background. So I don't want to blur it out too much. I don't want it to be hazy. You can do this if you want. You can make it very, very hazed out. You know, another thing that you can do, actually, if you really want to, is you can actually take the bottom two layers, or sorry, the top two layers. You can merge those together. That did not work for some reason, but you can merge two layers together and then have them kind of overlaid partially transparently onto the third layer and only blur some of them. You can get into it where you're fine-tuning and blending a lot of things. Again, I'm just going to blur this just a little bit to take some of the focus off of, that's not the one I meant to hit. I'm going to blur it just a little bit to take the focus off of my landmass, which is what my players are going to be looking at. So I just want a little bit of a haze to it. Nothing crazy. Probably around like the 2 pixel or so. Oh, one of my lights just went out. Awesome. Let's see. So if it helps, when I have textures that don't flow well, I overlap 2 layers. Yeah, so I do that too. I'll take them and I'll have them overlap just barely at the edge, or I'll overlap them very heavily, and then I'll use layer masks to kind of blend them together to where it looks good. That's actually a really good tip. So this part here, so and by this part I mean the landmass. I like it, the water's blurred out to kind of make the landmass stick out just a little bit more, but when you start getting towards these finer islands and the darker parts, you start losing some of this. So what I like to do is to come into the bottom layer, which is what everything is clipped to, and you can actually even clip this one to it as well. And I like to add some layer styles. Now in GIMP, they don't have a natural or a built-in layer style like this, but I believe there's an add-on that you can download um, that does this for you. Uh, but in Photoshop we have it, so we are clearly superior compared to everyone else apparently. I'm mostly kidding. So what I like to do, I don't like drop shadow. A lot of people use drop shadow a lot. Personally speaking, I think drop shadow looks, it has its uses, but for the most part, drop shadow is one of those things that everyone puts on to um, make something pop, and it's really, really kind of a I don't want to say like a noob mistake, but um, it's not very well thought out. I think it has its use, but if you just throw it on everything, it doesn't really make sense. And you can come in here and you can, you can make it spread and do things like that. But even still, it's going to have a bit of an angle to it. It's not going to be very even. So I get rid of the drop shadow. I don't use that hardly ever. What I do, I'll use stroke to give it a, and this is a bit where the kind of stylized thing comes in. Some people don't like this. Some people don't like using this technique. That's fine. If you don't like having a stroke on it, if you want it to look a little bit more blurred up, that's great. Everyone has their own thing. It's, there's no wrong way to do something. So just go ahead and do what you think looks nice. My style might not work for everybody. So if I want, depending on the size of the map, I'll come in here, I'll do a stroke. Some of the water's dark. You can play with doing a white stroke if you'd like, or a gray one, just to give a little bit of a separation. And you can put the blend mode on to, well, that won't work with a white one, but you can put the blend mode on like an overlay, and it will give you a very clear, defined coastline. You don't have to have 3 pixels. You can have it as 2 or as 1, and it just adds that little tiny bit of edging that makes your continent kind of pop off the water a little bit. For me, in this instance, 2 looks pretty good. I like the edging. You can go, instead of a white, with an overlay. You can go with a darker color, and you can do, scroll through here, see if you find something that you like that gives it a bit of that kind of hard edge as opposed to that kind of glowing edge. If you want more of a darker map, it's, again, entirely up to you. I think for this one, I like the way that this looks. I'm going to go with that. Then we go to the other step. I like to use outer glow for a lot of my stuff. And almost 9 times out of 10, when I use outer glow, I usually don't use a light color. I actually use a darker color. Now the big thing with outer glow is it's set for a lighter color, so the blend mode is almost always set to screen. What you want to do is you want to go in there and change that to multiply, and then you can just bump this up a little bit. You don't want to be drastic with it. I mean, you can, but for my purposes, I don't like to be too drastic with it. I just want to get it to where I can see it, just so it makes that, again, I'm just trying to make the continent kind of pop off. You can do the spread. This gives it a bit more of a hard edge. I don't really like that. I like to have the spread really, really low and the size up enough to kind of give it a ghosting, so it looks like there's a bit of a depth, and you can really start to see your coastline pop up. You can see all those islands that we worked on starting to take shape. If you want, you can bring the opacity down some. But even with the opacity down, you can really see a difference between not having the outer glow on there and having it on there. I really, really like having an outer glow with a darker color evenly spread around all the islands. With the drop shadow, again, you're going to get that kind of angle to it, and I don't personally like that. So you can go in here and just change this to whatever suits you, whatever you think looks good. Again, if you want, you can go with a lighter color. You can actually give it kind of a hazy glow. I don't personally like doing that. But it's all up to you, what you think looks good. I'm going to tone it down a little bit because I have a lot of close quarters right here, and I'm noticing that it's getting a little too dark for my taste. But again, that's where non-destructive editing comes in, because if I really want to, I can come back in here with the eraser tool and bump this up a little. Why is that so low? Yeah. Bump this up. Oop, there we go. And for some reason, I can't see my eraser tool right now because the circle is gone. But if you wanted to, you can come in here and tack away at this a little bit more. And just bring these edges out. If you don't like it, if it's too close quarters, you can always go back. And if you want to, again, you can always come back with your brush and you can build it back out. So that's what's really nice about it. So, I mean, that's the basics there for just kind of like laying out. You can get really intense with different textures, different things of that nature. And after this point, once I got the textures and everything exactly how I wanted to, I would start adding the different mountains and things like that. And just to kind of show a little bit of that, let's see here. We'll go ahead and we'll say that we'll just put a mountain range in. Now for the mountain ranges, what I normally do, there's a lot of brush sets out there. I have one that a lot of people use, but there's a reason that they use it. Actually, I think it's on my laptop. Well, we're going to close that off for tonight then. We won't do that. It's on my laptop. I'll have to re-download the brush set. So what I'll do is I'll actually come in here with a brush and I will brush in the mountain ranges with kind of almost like a Lord of the Rings type of feel to the brushes that I use. They have that very kind of stylistic 3D kind of peak to them, and it really makes them pop. And then I go back in after that and I color and highlight them, and I can do that in a later video if there's interest. But I think for now that this is a pretty solid place to stop. Make sure I save it, and then I can circle back around. We can do another video. This was, I don't know, about an hour or so. We can do another video sometime later on in the week if anyone's interested. But other than that, thanks for stopping in. Do you guys have any questions or anything? No? Alright, cool. Now there's Twitch delay. Yeah, I also do battle map stuff too. So if you guys are interested, next time we do a video, we can either pick up on this map here, or we can go ahead and go and kind of mess around with some battle map stuff. If you guys missed my last one here, it's really up to what you guys want to do. I'm always kind of making making different stuff all the time. So but other than that, yeah, I'm not really good at ending videos so far. But yeah, you guys know, hit me up on Twitter, anything like that. I'm going to call it here for tonight, just do the quick, short, hour-long one, and then if you want, we'll finish up this map, maybe give it a name. I might do a Twitter poll or something like that to name it. But yeah, thanks for stopping in, and I will catch you guys later. Night.